On Wednesday, April 26th, the Cleveland Cavaliers were eliminated 4-1 by a team many thought they would take care of in the New York Knicks. While the Cavs had a great regular season in Donovan Mitchell's first year in wine and gold, winning over 50 games, the team's flaws really came to light in their first round matchup versus New York. Today we will be discussing this Cavs team, what the future holds for them, and what went wrong in their first round matchup versus the New York Knicks. During the regular season, the Cavs were propelled by their league best defense, anchored by Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen, the two giants in their front court. And the Cavs in the postseason continued to have one of the better scoring defenses, but Mobley and Allen were severely outplayed by the Knicks' Mitchell Robinson. In Game 5, where the Cavs were eliminated, Robinson had 13 points, 18 boards, and 3 blocks, both out-rebounding and outscoring Mobley and Allen combined. Mitchell Robinson had more offensive rebounds in Game 5 than Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley had defensive rebounds combined. And throughout this series, this was a continuous pattern. The Cavs bigs not being able to compete at the level they were expected to. They couldn't deal with Mitchell Robinson's physicality, and in the regular season, Jarrett Allen averaged a pretty good 14 and 10, but in the postseason for Cleveland, he put up averages of just 9 points and 7 rebounds while playing 38 minutes a night in the playoffs, and had an extremely poor 4 points and 4 boards, shooting just 2 of 6 in Game 5 where Cleveland was eliminated. Cleveland was out-rebounded in 4 of the 5 games and lost all 4 of those games in which they were out-rebounded. As for Mobley, he put up just under 10 a game on 46% from the field along with 10 boards, but both Mobley and Allen averaged under 10, and that leads to another big problem for Cleveland: their lack of depth in scoring options besides Mitchell and Garland. When looking at this team, we know they have one of the best offensive backcourts in the league with Mitchell and Garland, and while Mitchell didn't have a great series, averaging just 23 a game on 43, 29, 72 splits, which is disappointing for someone like him with his playoff history, I think the bigger problem was they had no one to go to or really rely on that wasn't one of those two guys, which is unacceptable in the playoffs. Caris LeVert is someone who can give you scoring outbursts every few nights, but not exactly someone you can rely on game in and game out. The other 3 guys in their starting lineup for the majority of the regular season, Okoro, Mobley, and Allen, all aren't threats really at all to create their own shots, and looking on the bench, there aren't really many guys who can do that either besides LeVert, who was bumped into the starting lineup throughout the series. Other guys who received some type of playoff minutes from Cleveland were Cedi Osman, Ricky Rubio, and a very old Danny Green, and we really saw this lack of shot creation cost them in the playoffs, where the Cavs had 3 of their 5 lowest scoring games all season in this series. Looking at the guys playing for them though, it's not just that these guys can't create their own shots, but there really just isn't a lot of quality on this team at all outside the starting lineup. This team seriously lacks depth, and in their trade for Mitchell, they gave up Markkanen, Sexton, as well as their first round pick in 2022, along with other assets, and they are really thin at the end of their rotation, partly because of that. The Knicks are one of the deepest teams in the league, with guys like Emmanuel Quickley, Josh Hart, and Isaiah Hartenstein coming off the bench that make really positive contributions and can close games for them. They have around 8 or 9 guys who you could see closing a game for them, and you wouldn't think twice about it. The Cavs, after moving LeVert to the starting lineup, had a playoff bench rotation consisting of Cedi Osman, Isaac Okoro, and a well past their primes Ricky Rubio and Danny Green. The disparity in these teams' supporting cast is very clear, and fixing this issue won't be easy for Cleveland. If they don't want to deal any of their so-called core 4 of Mitchell, Garland, Allen, and Mobley, they have barely any players of value to include in deals, and as for their picks, many of them are headed towards Utah's way, with them sending 3 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps in that Mitchell deal. As for Mitchell and Garland as a backcourt, many thought their defensive shortcomings would be a problem for them as a duo, and it really wasn't throughout the regular season for Cleveland. But in the playoffs, the Knicks found a way to give them some trouble, running a lot of this guard-on-guard screen action with RJ Barrett or Josh Hart screening for Jalen Brunson. And it will be interesting if we see teams try to copy the Knicks' blueprint to break down the Cavs' defense next year, as they found a way to attack the Cavs guards, who both struggled defensively. Instead of a traditional pick and roll where a big sets the screen, they had someone like RJ or Hart set it so they get a switch onto another guard, and then the player who gets the ball can either attack that, or Brunson gets a one-on-one matchup with a bad defender. And when doing this, they avoid the rim protection of Mobley or Jared Allen, or at least limit the effect of that. And if they choose to double Brunson like they do in the second clip, he can find an open man, as he does find Josh Hart for an open dunk in that second clip. Both Mitchell and Garland did have bad games in this series, even though Garland, I would say, played pretty well besides his one horrible game at MSG, and Mitchell didn't play great, but I don't think that's necessarily the main reason Cleveland lost. He could have played much better, and I think they were expecting much better production out of a guy like him, who, as said previously, is a great playoff performer. But we can't let that overshadow much bigger issues that are going on with the Cleveland Cavaliers. When I look at this team, I think the first thing it really needs is a wing who can shoot and defend. Someone like Dorian Finney-Smith. Now, I know he shot pretty poorly in Brooklyn, but he's a really good defender, and he has a little more offensive game to the point where he isn't a liability like Okoro. Now, looking at the free agent class, Cleveland's not going to have a lot of money either. It's really going to be slim pickings, but some guys I could see them targeting are Dillon Brooks, Cam Reddish, Jalen McDaniels, and possibly a Jay Crowder reunion. But just a guy who can shoot and defend and isn't an offensive liability like Okoro is. But even if they get that, they still have clear holes on their bench. They need another guard who can create their own shot, and they really just need more good players that are outside the starting lineup, because right now they have pretty much none if you're counting Karis LeVert as a starter. I mean, they had no effective players coming off the bench in that series versus the Knicks, and those things have to change for Cleveland, and they've put themselves in a really tough spot after the Donovan Mitchell trade, because they went all in, and I'm not saying it was wrong, because they just had a great season and made the playoffs for the first time since 2016, but that's left them at a place where they don't really have any assets left to make moves. They don't have a lot of wiggle room, and if you want to keep your core four, which it has been reported they do, I don't really know where you go from here. Somewhere I might consider going is possibly looking into trading Jared Allen. I don't know what you would get for him, but maybe just seeing what the market is for a guy like him who was an all-star a season ago. He is a good center. I don't think you would get anything crazy, but if you're able to get a solid wing for him, I think you might have to consider that and bank on Mobley being able to add muscle or get another guy beside him for cheaper. This team has some great young talent and players with bright futures such as Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, and Allen, but they have clear problems too in terms of lack of assets, lack of depth, and lack of a wing who can both score and defend. And it's going to be really interesting to see what the future holds for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I thank y'all for watching. Leave your thoughts below on the Cavs and what you think they should do this offseason, and peace out.